Welcome back, everybody. You always catch us mid-conversation. That's why I have this dumb look on my face every time we start recording. We were just trying to figure out before the show, because we have so many topics that we could talk about. And there's so much relevance these days with everything that's going on in the world, or just going on in our little individual lives and our little 3-foot world around us. And there's all the things that are just happening on the news cycle. And there's always a lot going on in the news cycle. 50, well, shit, not even that long ago. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, you kind of get the bad news in your local paper, and you have the 3 or 4 channels you watch on the nightly news for an hour every night. And that was kind of it. And I know that gets a little old coming from older guys. Back in my day, we only had this, but it really is true that there was only so much you could worry about. You live in your little town, get your obituaries, and you get your news, some of it good news, some of it bad. And now, you can't open a phone up without getting something terrible just happened in Thailand. It's like, oh shit, is this going to happen here? And it's like, the reality is, I don't know that there's that many more bad things happening in the world. It's just, we hear about it more. And to give you an example of that, before this type of work, I had that nonprofit for human trafficking, and we did rescues and investigations. It was coupled with my private investigative agency there in South Florida. And we did the research on the statistics. We worked a lot with John Walsh and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I knew him from my previous job, so we kind of had a good working relationship with them. And we were going over statistics one day. And you remember in the 90s, parents would just let their kids go for the day, for the most part. Like, if you lived in a smallish town, even in a larger city, I'm sure, and just be back at a certain time to eat, come home for lunch on the weekends, come home before dark, all that stuff. And then so much started happening after that. Then in the news cycle started picking up more abductions and more things along those lines. That's not really a thing anymore. As far as I know, the parents that I know don't let their kids have the kind of freedom that I had. Whether that was good or not, I don't know. But we actually did a deep dive on it when I was doing my previous job. And the instances of abductions and trafficking, statistically speaking, did not go up at all. It's just, you would hear about every little thing, and for good. So a child gets abducted from northern Minnesota, where I grew up. Usually the people just in that surrounding community would hear about it. Sometimes it would make its way a couple hundred miles away. Obviously, there's a search and investigation. But you don't typically hear about a child getting abducted in Connecticut or Florida if you live in a specific area. And now it's like any child that got abducted anywhere in the country. Now, of course, we have Amber Alert and all the other things. So there is an element of, that's good that we're super informed, and as soon as something bad like that happens, that the word gets out quickly. But what that caused is a chain reaction of parents being afraid, and they say, oh my gosh, can you believe how much this is happening these days? And when I did the research, it's not true. It's just, we see and hear about it more often. I don't remember where I was going with this, other than just thinking about the impact of all the bad negativity coming at us constantly on the news, right?
I want to take it in an interesting place right now. So let me ask you a question. And I mean, I really don't know what your answer is, but let me ask you the question. Do you think it's a better thing or a worse thing that we have that? Because like you said, I mean, you are more informed as to what's going on. But from the other side, every single thing gets to some degree sensationalized, and everything is in your face right away. So I'm curious to hear your opinion. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? So I want to take it somewhere.
Well, I have a good control for this because I travel full time in the winters. I didn't go far enough south this time. That's a story for another day. It's 50 degrees over here right now in Galveston. Lovely town, but it's windy and cold. So I would travel out of the country most winters, Spain, Mexico, anywhere where it was warmer than Detroit, which is whatever. And I have to get back to Florida. So a couple times the 3 winters in a row, we went from Midwest to Spain and Mexico, and just alternated. We would get to these new places, and we just wouldn't have local cable news. We wouldn't have Fox, MSNBC, all that stuff. Now, we could find it. We'd go to YouTube. You can get YouTube anywhere in the world, obviously, but we would just not think about putting it on. We would usually start our day with, let's just put some news on, and I'll watch anything. I'll watch Fox for a little bit just to see what's going on over there. And it's because the contrast is ridiculous. Then I'll watch something like MSNBC. And I'm not a fan of any of these networks, but I'm like, it's just really crazy how one will be one way and one will be the other. But you watch these things for 15, 20 minutes a day in the morning, just to think you're catching up on the news and being a good informed citizen. But what I noticed was, on the occasion where we wouldn't have the news, or we just wouldn't think to put it on, the U.S. news for whatever reason, and I wouldn't watch it for like a couple weeks at a time, my whole day was better. And I had to actually, I didn't realize it until later. I'm like, holy shit. I was going through my day, which is an ambient anxiety or anger. I would start my day off angry, knowing all the things that I knew from watching the news. And when I didn't have it, I'm like, what is going on? Why am I so much more peaceful? And I wasn't missing any big news, because, if you log into Facebook or you have friends and family that are like, hey, you need to see this like huge thing that happened, you don't really miss anything. So I think that kind of like, that's my answer to your question, I guess, is that I've actually had it before where I had zero news for a while, and then I got it back again, and I'm like, why do I have a tightness in my chest all day? So yeah, it does affect negatively.
I want to take it in an interesting way right now, because what you mentioned is what I believe is the case for most people. The fact is, you want to know what's going on in the world. And so you don't want to be the person living in a cave and not knowing anything. But at the same time, there's going to be a level after which all that you're doing is you're just adding on to your anxiety. You're just adding on to the sense of just dread or discomfort or anger or whatever it is, depending on what news you're paying attention to or whatever it is. And the place I want to take this is it's the exact same thing that happens when you've got those conversations going on inside of your mind. And I know this is a very interesting, different way to take it, but given the way that this conversation went, it was just a perfect segue into it. In terms of the fact that we've actually set up before that your unconscious mind is always eavesdropping on you. And I'm going to use myself as an example, where I was talking about the fact that going back about 15 years ago now, and I hurt my back. And I had a very serious back injury. There was no two ways about it. I got the MRIs. I had a ruptured disc. There was a very serious back injury. And as soon as I was told, you have a ruptured disc, you have a serious back injury. And I went to all the doctors, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor went and gave me the shot. He said, come back next week and we'll work on it again. And I went back to the doctor next week and we worked on it again. And what happened was, I went past that threshold in terms of, it does make sense to know that you have an injury to the point of don't do something to aggravate it. But I was focusing in on that injury every single day, every single week. Am I feeling better? Am I not feeling better? What's going on? And what happened was my brain started making connections in the neurons in terms of, where is my pain now? How am I feeling right now? Where's the pain? How difficult is the pain? How much pain am I in? And I would never get out that cycle, because the moment I would go see the doctor again. The doctor would say, oh gosh, let's give you this injection, or how's your pain today? And I would have to give him an answer. And so I would always be focused in on my pain. Fast forward 10 years into this experience. And what happened was, I was so wired into looking for my pain that at this point in time, it's been 10 years. My body has healed itself in every single way it needed to. But I was so hardwired into looking for the pain, my unconscious mind was constantly sitting there looking for it, that I didn't know how to disassociate myself away from the pain. I was constantly in that state of sitting there going, how's the pain right now? What's going on in my head? What's happening? In the exact same way that a person that is just so tied into, it's, for example, you and talking about the child abductions, that you're so tied into it that you just think that the whole world is a place filled with traffickers. And you miss out on so many things that aren't the case. In the same way, what I had to do was I actually had to disassociate my brain away from that act of looking for the pain into the act of looking for the comfort. And it was a very small thing, but again, because the unconscious mind is eavesdropping on you, and I started going into that pattern of, what should I be looking at instead of this? What is actually the thing I want to have in my mind? In the exact same way that when you're in Thailand and you're having fun and you're going out to the beach and you're having a great time, all the same things are happening in the world, and you can pay attention to the news for X% of time to make sure that you know what you need to know. But more than that, you're damaging yourself. In the exact same way with my pain, I needed to know, how is my body genuinely doing? Is there something that's very dangerous? Is there something I should absolutely not be doing? As soon as I went beyond that, all I was doing was I was damaging myself by creating stronger neurological connections, focusing in on the pain. And I know I'm talking about pain, but I've seen this with my clients in every single situation. The other example I'll give as myself as an example is, I told you a story maybe a few months back about me and stage fright, where all I knew was, when I was thinking about going up on stage, my brain was completely focused in on, I've got stage fright. This is what happened to me. I've got stage fright. This is what happened to me. I'm going to be afraid in front of these people. How am I going to mess up? What's it going to be? And because my brain was broadcasting that, and I was tuned into that station, that was all I was hearing. And the one thing that needed to shift for me was for me to say, I don't need to listen to you right now. I get the fact that you are broadcasting, but I don't want to tune into this channel right now. And as soon as I realized I had the choice, as soon as I empowered myself to realize the fact that I could actually not pay attention to that channel, I went up, I gave a speech, and that voice was still in the back of my head, but I just said, shut the F up. And everything shifted. And all of a sudden I started remembering all the good things that were going on. And so many other things I want to say about it, but like I hope that makes sense, how the two things connect in my mind.
Yeah, an example for me from today, I had a relatively busy morning and I woke up late because I wanted to. I didn't set an alarm. I woke up at like a.m., which is very rare for me. Sun was out and everything else, but I didn't have anything to do first thing. I just had a lot of tasks to accomplish. Well, then I got up. I started walking around the apartment. I started working myself up about like, well, maybe I should have been up earlier. I no reason to be. I just started working my like, well, then all this happened, and then like I have to do all these things. I kept rolling it over in my mind. And what I've done when it comes to tasks and trying not to stress about tasks is that I have my little to-do apps in my phone. Obviously, there's ClickUp, but I have another one that's like simpler, just for stuff I need to accomplish. And I find that just getting it out of my head and into the phone and not having to think about it, that helps, because otherwise you just kind of keep rolling things over in your head. But I started getting angry that I'm awake late, and then that compounded, and then I was angry at myself for getting angry that I was awake late, and it just kind of kept spiraling to the point where I was kind of having a bad morning, And then I walked downtown here where I'm at on this co-working space, and I started thinking about everything I had to do, and in reality, it only took me a fraction of my time this morning to do all the things I needed to do, but I had done a really good job of working myself up about everything for no reason. There's a guy that I have to do some work for that I can't stand. He's one of the clients that I kept after I got rid of most of them, but I kept this one guy because he pays okay, but for some reason I just keep like, yeah, I'll help you with that real quick. But every time I see his name pop up on my phone, I get physically angry. And then I started thinking, well, why though? Now I know why. I don't like him, but why am I letting this person get to me?
Mess up my
So
day.
I didn't do a very good job of actually talking myself down and making myself have a better day. But at least like, okay, I'm thinking about it. I'm not just letting it bulldoze me. I'm at least trying to, you always say, I'm at least trying to like disrupt the thought. And I kept going back to it. I couldn't break out of it. I mean, I went and exercised out, made it better. But I was still thinking like, oh, I hate this guy. I can't wait to whatever. I can't wait to get rid of him. I know he's going to text me and want something and want to get on a call or something. And yeah, it's tough. It's not only just pain, but just your thoughts just intruding all the time. And then you get angry that you're having those thoughts. So it's almost like
You
I had
build
to
up
just
the
tell
memory.
myself, yeah. So this morning was especially bad, just having to keep over and over in my head, today's not that bad. Like, what are you so upset about? Everything's going to get done on time. But there's some days where you could tell yourself that a million times and you still don't get that. You still don't feel it, right? There's just something going on.
So I mean, there's so many different things to talk about this, but it's your example at the very beginning in terms of the news stations and the fact that you constantly see the same news. It's the perfect example of what's going on in your brain, right? In terms of the fact that you're getting stuck in the story and you're tuning in to the same exact station. And the thing is, not only are you tuning into that station, but then you've also got the radio playing in the background with the exact same news. And then you've got the newspaper in front of you. And then you've got Google up in front of you with all the same things. So regardless where you look, you've always got this stuff bombarding you with all this information. And it's all the information you don't want to hear. And your brain is just, at that point in time, it just develops a momentum of going into it. And I specifically want to like share this with people in terms of actual strategies to break out of this, because it's such an important thing. And so the one strategy, it's back to the concept of atomic habits, of preparing yourself ahead of time, which for me is such a powerful thing, is a concept of practicing meditation. And I know that you and I have discussed it, but I just want to mention it again for the listeners in terms of what I mean by that. So to me, meditation isn't that concept of sitting up on a hilltop and just sitting there connecting with God or whatever it is. Although when you do meditate enough, you do start having those amazing spiritual experiences. For me, meditation is literally teaching myself how to not listen to that monkey brain I have. The brain in my head, the crazy little monkey in my head that's beating the drums and going crazy and all those different things. It's when I meditate, what I'm doing in that moment is I still have all those thoughts. I still sit there thinking about, oh God, I'm upset with that client, or gosh, I should have said this in that situation, or can you believe that asshole cut me off in traffic, or whatever it is. And what I'm doing in that moment, as I sit there meditating, I sit there telling myself, I'm only going to focus in on my breath. I'm only going to focus in on this tiny little area or whatever it is I focus in on that meditation. And then my brain starts going crazy, going like, but I don't want to think about that right now. I want to think about that asshole that just messed up my day. And I sit there going, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And my brain goes, I don't want to breathe in, breathe out right now. And so what happens is the first time you do it, you're going to fail at meditating horribly. But by the time you've done this for a month or a year, I have no clue how long it will take. What you're doing is you're conditioning your brain to sit there saying, this voice in my head isn't something I have to pay attention to. It's something that I could pay attention to, but at the same time, I could also choose not to pay attention to it. And when you can make that element of dissociation, you get back in being in control of being able to not let those thoughts take you on that loop. And to me, that is the biggest gift that meditation has ever given me. Now, I do want to take this a little bit further because I see you're nodding. I know that you might have something to say, but I just want to take it a little bit further in terms of the fact that when you do get absolutely stuck in that loop that's going on in your head, and we mentioned this just recently a couple of podcasts ago, is sometimes what you need to do is you need to break the pattern really, really intensely. If you sit there telling yourself, don't think about that person that's annoying you, your brain is going to sit there going, good try, but I don't think you understand how much he annoyed me. It's like if you tap your hammer, if you tap your thumb, a tiny little hammer, and you go, ouch, that hurt. And you go, I'm not going to think about it. You go, that's okay. If you take a freaking 10-pound hammer and you tap your thumb and you go, don't think about it, it's not going to work out as well because it's got that much more attention focused in on it because it's just that much more acute. In the same way, what you need to do is you need to come up with something equally as strong to break your pattern. So in that moment, if your brain is just so stuck in that loop, for example, I blast super loud music to the point that I can't hear my own internal dialogue. Because if I'm talking to myself, I'll specifically take death metal. We're talking about like hard instrumental drum beats, just hard electronic beats, whatever it is. So I can't even hear myself think. Literally, I know that saying is my father always used to scream at me, shut up kids, I can't hear myself think. That's what I want to do in that moment, right? I specifically don't want those thoughts to go along. Or what I'll do is I'll try break my pattern another way. I'll go on YouTube and I'll find my favorite comedian, whichever one yours is, and I'll watch some really, really funny things. Or I'll go for a walk and go outside and specifically just focus in on anything that isn't part of my thought pattern. How many different shades of green can I see while I'm walking right now? How many license plates can I read before the car drives by me? Something as stupid as it is that I can just focus my brain away from that thought that keeps it going in one way. And then the final thing is, if none of those things work, I'll go take a damn nap. It's like I would rather, even if I'm feeling unproductive, I'd rather take a nap and make myself even more unproductive and turn off the brain for a moment. Sometimes when the computer is so clogged up, what you need to do is you just need to hit the power button for a second. And you need to break that pattern and just absolutely give yourself that ability to just say, everything will be, whatever it is, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'll deal with it in 2 hours' time. Right now, I need to just hit reset because this is not serving me or anyone else in any way, shape, or form. And there's more I want to say about this, but I'll stop there because I know that I'm kind of motor mouthing here.
No, that's great. I was actually going to ask, like, if you actually listen to something to kind of break out of it. My interesting experience with that, not just with music, but just having something to listen to. Like, I can't meditate on my own. I mean, I'm sure I could. I just don't. I need to have somebody in my ear to kind of tell me what to do. It just helps a lot. Yeah. I mean, I probably could if I sat and did it long enough, but still. But I didn't realize the power of just speaking in terms of just music, just one aspect of what you just said, because I spent a series of months not listening to any music. It was back when I was like, I need to learn everything I can from podcasts and Blinkist and audiobooks. So every time I was either exercising, walking, anytime I had my AirPods in, instead of just listening to music, I would have something informative in, something educational, because I thought I needed to fill every second of the day learning something new. And it was fun to do. And then I listened to music for the first time, and it'd been weeks, I think. And I got this euphoric, like, dopamine hit. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I mean, obviously we all like music, but I didn't realize how the actual change it made in me. And I'm like, wow, that really regulated my mental state in the moment. Had I known that listening, so the podcasts kind of have an adverse effect on me depending upon what it is. If it's a really intense subject and I'm like trying to pay attention and learn, I can't relax. I'm like, holy shit. Huberman Lab is a good example of this because I love everything the guy does, but they're so long and I don't want to miss anything. So I'm almost stressed listening to some of his shows because I'm like, oh, what was that point about? I need to do this in the cold plunge for this long or whatever. So my brain's always thinking. Then I put on some music that one day and I was like, wow, I feel amazing. And it was just music. So I think that's very important for people to hear is even if it sounds silly, even if you're like, there's no way that just putting in a couple songs is going to change my train of thought or change the way I feel. Like, it really works to regulate your emotion versus, even if you can't sit in silence. So yeah, I really like that. That's what I was going to ask you before is, do you listen to anything while you're doing that?
And I'm also going to say that there's three main ways people process information, just based upon, it's like, I mean, if you think about it, your brain is nothing more than a sponge that takes in all your external environment as you're growing up. So basically, the three main ways that we perceive our environment are the things we see, the things we hear, and the things we feel. And so what you want to do is when you want to break a pattern, you want to deal with something visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, depending on the way your brain works. You are very auditory, obviously. You talk a lot. So do I. I'm not saying that in a bad way at all, but you are very auditory. And so for me and for you, music would be a great way to break our pattern because we talk to ourselves a lot. For people that are visual, it can sometimes help to actually just look into the distance and pay attention to something far away from you, or look at something with very sharp, strong colors, or something very, very striking in any way visual. It's like, so for me, I love the idea of actually like trying to see how many shades of green can I see, or something like that. Like I said, just something to play around with that. For someone that's kinesthetic, there's two different ways to go about this. Sometimes it actually helps to actually pick up a pen and start doodling, to actually just move your body and do something. Sometimes it's exercise, actually going and taking a swim and feeling your body in a different environment. A cold shower, something that can completely snap yourself out of it. Or something that's actually worked very well for me at different times, and it just plays around with so many different of my modalities, is beating the hell up out of a pillow. It's like, I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but just like hitting something hard and knowing for a fact that you can hit it as hard as you want, you're going to be good. And that is a very important thing. If you don't know how to punch, or if you don't know how to do something, don't do it in a stupid way. Don't try punch a pillow like this and you break your wrist and something like that and then say, Ori told me to do it. No. What you want to do is you want to take a pillow and you want to just smash down like this in a way that you absolutely can't really hurt yourself, into a really solid, thick pillow that's on top of a mattress in a way that you can't hurt yourself. It's just something that actually releases the frustration from you. And then sometimes, if you just want to, you pick up this exact same pillow and you scream your lungs out into it. That's also a kinesthetic thing. It's a sense of releasing the energy that's trapped up inside of you. And if you notice what we're doing here, it's to some degree, it's the same kind of stuff I'm talking about in the emotional alchemy journal kind of thing. I just want to make that tiny connection there in terms of what you're trying to do here is you're trying to just break your pattern and release this energy that's stuck inside of you. And so the whole idea here is to just come up with whatever way it is to break that pattern in whatever way that works for you. And again, I'll pause here, but there's so many things I want to say here about all these things.
I mean, this is a great point because as adults, we're just kind of taught to be reserved, be in control, keep your shit together. And if you look at a 2-year-old, they could throw a tantrum in the middle of the floor wherever they want and scream and yell and beat and scream, all those other things. And what we consider to be poor behavior in public. Obviously, we can't go around as adults and scream and yell. But you make a good point, though, because I have had times where I've just been so stressed out where I have screamed into a pillow. And it sounded silly at the time. And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm almost euphoric just with like peace, just so because I'm tired. But I'm also just like, wow, like I feel really, really relaxed. And I bet that's why those new, what are those places called now? You've got one down by you.
The rage rooms?
The rage rooms. Yeah. But I mean, obviously that's a little extreme and you can't, that's something you have to schedule and plan and go there to do. But yeah, if anybody told me now, like, hey, I just had to go to my room and just scream into a pillow for a bit, I'm like, well, good, because it's something that we're all kind of like ashamed to do as adults, though, because we've been programmed to be ashamed of losing your shit,
So there's a few things I want to comment about there. The first thing that you mentioned there is how that you feel tired after screaming into a pillow. And that is something that I really, really want to comment about. It's the idea of feeling tired after screaming into a pillow. When you think about it, the reason why that happens from my point of view is because you've been spending so much energy. It's like I always give people the beach ball analogy. So if I take a beach ball, if you and I are in a pool and we take a beach ball and I tell you what I want you to do is I want you to take this beach ball and I want you to hold it under the surface of the water for as long as you can. And I sit there and I'm playing around and the beach ball is big enough that it's actually giving you a lot of exercise to do. And it seems like it's not a big problem if you do it for 20 seconds, but if I made you do it for 30 minutes, at the end of those 30 minutes, when you let go of that beach ball, you're going to be like, oh my God, I never, ever, ever want to do that again. That was exhausting. In the exact same way, when you finally scream and you finally let that energy out, there's that part inside of you that has been spending however long it is, based upon exactly what you said before, society saying I'm not allowed to release these emotions. It's wrong for me to have my fit or whatever it is. It's as soon as that you finally let it out, that part inside of you that's been fighting so hard to suppress them and keep them under the surface finally gets a chance to relax. And that part is genuinely just zonked out. I've been working hard for the last 18 years, 18 minutes, 18 months. It can be a very long period of time that I have not allowed myself to have this level of release. And it finally now just has that sense of release and relief of just being able to finally let it go. And so what I discover is, like, if you watch a child kind of like just scream and cry, afterwards they feel released and relieved and they feel okay. If you watch an adult scream and cry, when they're done, they're ready to pass out and hibernate like a bear for the next 8 months. And it's because they've used that much energy keeping that inside of them. It's however big the release needs to be, is however much energy you've been using to keep that inside. However large that beach ball is how much energy you're using to keep it under the surface. And so it's a really wonderful thing to me for you to actually mention about the fact that you feel so elated and so relaxed afterwards, because that's exactly the way it should happen if you really, really, really finally release these emotions.
Yeah, and what a shame that, and obviously some of the things we're speaking about now are coming to light in recent years, or it's becoming more mainstream, whereas before it's just bottle it up, keep it down kind of thing. And that's a lot where alcohol comes into play, because what alcohol does for me, at least a couple drinks in, after that, it's whatever, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. But a couple drinks in, it literally, it feels that same, everything just kind of shuts off. And I'm like, oh, no, obviously that's like, it's a medicating myself or poison, and then of course the backside of that's even worse. But that's what people did. That's what people still do, instead of having another outlet like that. So hopefully that's something that should be more. I'm not saying rage rooms should be on every corner, but it should just be more acceptable to. We need soundproof booths everywhere that people could just go in and scream.
And I love that idea, but like, I mean, until that exists, my logic is that you still need to learn to release that energy. And that's why, like, again, I'm not in any way, like, as you know, like, it's something that we've released to the public for free anyway. But it's like, I mean, the concept of the emotional alchemy journal is exactly about this, in terms of the fact that it's just the idea of releasing things in such a free thought way that you can just let everything out of you in one way or another completely, because we need to learn how to release these emotions. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen that have healed diseases, healed lifelong pain, healed allergies, healed phobias, healed everything by just having one really good venting session. And all it takes is one, when you finally get to say that thing that you've been repressing for so long in your brain, and you finally get to say, you know what, John, I absolutely hate your guts. Or do you know what, Ori, I absolutely hate your guts. Whatever it is, and just really, really letting that emotion out. And all that energy you've been holding in is finally gone. And it's gone once and for all. And you feel like a completely different person. And literally, you become a completely different person.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about my morning again. I was getting up and like getting ready, and started off with like, I got a couple things to do this morning. It's nice and sunny out. It's nice. I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should have started earlier. Oh, then I got to deal with this guy I can't stand. And then that turned into, how did I got mad at myself? How did I let myself accept another project from this guy that I can't stand? And it almost got to the point where, and I've never been, like we always say, we're always on a spectrum of everything. But I almost got to the point where I could talk myself into going back to bed and hiding under the covers right now. Of course, I didn't do that, but my mind was headed in that direction where I could be like, oh man, I wonder if this is what it feels like to have that kind of so anxious, that the depression that people have where they can't get out of bed. So when people say, well, I don't understand why they can't just get up and do things, I'm like, oh, I get it. Where you're just so bundled up, where you're just like, I just need to hide. And my head was, that's how silly I felt. My brain was headed in that direction, but I recognized that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. A couple things. And by the way, I got done with everything this morning with plenty of time to spare. I went to the gym, went for a walk and everything else. But yeah, just that train of thought, just that rolling over of just having to break that pattern. And I think because I went to I hate saying this, but I went to the CrossFit class. I don't know if it's going to give me shit every time I say CrossFit, but because no big deal. Yeah. It's a bunch of old people and me. Well, I'm old now too, but because I broke the morning up with that, and I had to, because you have to sign up for the class and I could pay a lot of money to go there, so I think that I forced myself. Then I walked out of there. I'm like, oh, the world is fine. Now that was just exercise, but it's at some level.
But you broke your pattern.
I broke the pattern. Yeah. And it's, but when you're in it though, when you're in it and you're feeling it and you feel this crushing, just either anxiety or just whatever it is, it's hard to think, because you're so tunnel vision. It's hard to think like, well, if I just go do this one thing over here, if I just go walk around the block, listen to music, it seems silly when you're really, really wound up. You just almost have to remind yourself like, hey, this may not make sense to my brain right now, but I know that if I do this, it's going to work. Or maybe it won't work. Maybe I just need to do it and try it anyway. And if I can remember to do that, it really helps me a lot. So if I get into this shit again tomorrow and I'm like, hey, I know that if I go listen to music and take a walk down to the coffee shop at the far end of the whatever here, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe I'm just as angry at the end of it. I won't be, but it's almost like you have to be mature enough to say, you know, this works. Just go do it, even if you don't think it's going to work. And that's the hardest part, I think.
It's the hardest part, right? It's like it's the exact same thing as listening to news, which is like, I mean, why it was such a beautiful beginning to this conversation. And like, to me, like, this is probably my favorite episode that we've had, because it strikes on something that works, that every single person in the world is dealing with right now. But if you think about it, you don't want to be the person that doesn't listen to the news at all, because all of a sudden you're the person that doesn't know what's going on, and you're the person who let your children out, and God forbid your children get abducted, right? So you need to know what's going on. And that messes with you, because now all of a sudden what goes on is the fact that you have to listen to the news. But if you listen to too much of the news, you're now stuck in a bad loop. So when you don't listen to the news, your brain can make you feel guilty, sitting there saying, but maybe now I'm going to get hurt because I didn't learn something. And what you need to do is you need to play that fine balancing game with yourself of sit there saying, I'm going to listen to it enough, but at the same time, I'm not going to let it rule my life. And now to take that into your situation or into anyone else's situation, it's when you have a bad morning and you sit there saying, I don't want to work with this client, whatever it is. You don't want to ignore that statement, because there is a part inside of you sitting there saying, genuinely sitting there telling you, like, I don't like working with this client. Maybe this is something I should pay attention to, because if I keep doing this, I'm going to hate my life and what was life about, living about in the first place. But what you do is you say, noted. And you actually like mark off the thing of, okay, fine, I got you. I heard you. I shouldn't be working for this client. Maybe now what we need to do is come up with some kind of an exit strategy, or maybe right now I just come up with something that I just say, like, this is what it is right now, and it's not going to be forever. I've heard you, but it doesn't mean I need to keep listening. And that's the thing that makes a difference. In the exact same way as the news, at some point in time, you know enough about what's going on, and when you take it beyond that, you're just damaging your own psyche. In the exact same way, when you wake up in the morning and you feel bad, you want to note why you feel bad. You may even want to take note of why you feel bad. And then what you do is you actually, maybe what you need to do is sit there and you say, like, do you know what? I'm going to write it down so I don't need to ruminate about it in my head. I'm going to write down, I feel bad because, and I'm going to take 10 minutes to write down why I feel bad. And now once it's written down, I don't need to keep the story going. And if I forgot to write something, that's enough. I've written down enough, and in 5 days' time, when the issue comes about again, it will get into that day's worth of journaling. It doesn't need to be something that I need to keep looking. What else do I need to think about that makes me feel bad so I can fix everything right now? As long as you actually get it out of your head one time and you sit there saying, done, you can then say, okay, fine now, monkey mind. I've heard what you have to say. I'm done listening to you. Now it's time for us to move on. And then you can go for a walk and do whatever. And you don't feel guilty over the fact that you're ignoring it, because it's going to keep sitting there beating its drum, screaming at you, going like, but Lee, you missed my message. It's like, and you sit there going, and if I missed your message and you were that important, trust me, I'm going to get a chance to hear a message again tomorrow or the next day. So for the rest of today, I'm done listening to you.
Yeah, it reminds me of what we talked about a few months back about scheduling time to worry. I've actually done this week. There's something I need to correct. I got overcharged at one of the places that here in Galveston, and they haven't reversed the charges yet, even though I told them to, and they said they were going to do it. And for some reason, every day I've been looking at it's a small amount, but I've been looking at that account. It's been bugging me every single day. And then just yesterday, I made a note, because I use one of the note apps with a schedule. I made a note for before we leave here in 2 weeks, a couple days before we leave, I made a note to myself, worry about this today, or whatever. I didn't say worry about it, but I scheduled my worry, and then I haven't thought about it since. Even talking about it now doesn't really upset me, because I know that, oh, it's planned. I'm going to worry about this and get angry about this when I have to go ask them about it again. So that helps too. But I really like what you said about just kind of breaking the pattern, writing something down or thinking about it like, okay, I see you, I hear you, but I have to do this, because there's a lot of people that listen, watch that probably have to check things in the morning. They have kids, so they can't just avoid the news, avoid their phones. They might have to check school alerts or job alerts, or if they're like me, I'm one of those people that I want to get up and check my messages real quick before I do anything. And some people will say that's unhealthy. It works for me though, because if I don't, then I'm even more anxious because I'm like, did I miss something?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and again, it's like some people should put their phone on do not disturb until whenever they're ready to start working. For me, it's the exact opposite. If I wake up and I clear and triage, like, okay, get back to this person, leave this unread. If I do that, then I can take some time. Some people can't. Some people need to avoid. So yeah, there's that too, where because people do need to check things, and it's not like we can just go through the mornings without looking at messages. For the most part.
And I think that it's kind of Pollyannish to assume that that's the world that we're going to live in, that you can get away with not paying attention to anything. But the truth is, to some degree, you probably could live a perfectly fine life, and life will continue if you didn't pay attention to it. But that's not what I'm saying. It's like the thing I'm really getting at here is your unconscious mind is just like any other human being. It wants to feel heard, and it wants to know that its message got taken in. And if you sit there telling your unconscious mind, it's I'm not going to listen to you, or I don't know what to do about it, and you feel overwhelmed, what happens is your unconscious mind is going to sit there going like, you haven't heard me yet, you haven't heard me yet, you haven't heard me yet, listen now, listen now, listen now. It's going to start screaming at you. As opposed to you sit there saying like, okay, fine, I get it. I'm unhappy with my client. Okay, let me write that down. I'm unhappy with my client. I'm going to allow my mind to think about it in the recesses of my mind. I'm not going to think about it consciously. And my wonderful goal is within the next 3 months to figure out a way to not need this client in my life anymore. And you kind of like check in with yourself and you go, does that feel like I've heard you? And if that's a yes, you go yes. And if it's no, you continue. And it's the exact same thing in any other relationship. I'm talking about building a relationship with yourself. If Joy, my girlfriend, comes in right now and has an issue with me, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have her state her issues to me. And then I'm going to repeat them back to her and say, have I missed anything? Have I heard you well enough? If the answer is yes, she now feels heard. She now feels vindicated. And then we can move on to what can we do about it? If the answer is no, I can say, then what have I missed? What am I not hearing? Let's break this down a bit more. And it's very possible that at that point in time, I say like, look, maybe right now we're not in the right place for us to have this conversation. Let's just table it. I'm not saying we're not going to talk about it, but let's just table it. Let's go out. Let's do what we've got to do. And then tonight, when we've got a bit more free time, let's talk about it a bit more. You can do the exact same thing with your unconscious mind and sit there saying, I get the fact you're worried about everything in the world. What is it they're really, really worried about right now? What is it that's really, really driving you nuts? This? Is there something I'm missing here? This? Is it this? Okay, fine. So now let's just think about it through, or I'm going to leave it to you to just think about what would you like this to be like instead, and a kind of timeline that you'd like that to happen that would be somewhat realistic. And let's touch base again. But it doesn't make sense for you to keep hammering it into me and sit there telling me about it, because all you're going to do is you're going to mess up every other thing that makes my day productive and useful. So we got it written down. Now let's move on, because at this point in time, what you're doing is you're no longer being productive. You're no longer, you're a fire alarm that's going off even once the fire has been spotted and it's been doused completely. It just doesn't make sense anymore.
It's also good to actually figure out what you're really upset about. Like you mentioned, doing it with another person, because like most fights, arguments, or conflicts, or just even most decisions have to be made that are not even adversarial. It's amazing how two people can think two different things, and they think that they're getting their point across, and they think the other person understands. But if the other person actually says it back to them, like, okay, just so you know, this is what I heard, then we'd be like, no, that's what you heard? No wonder we're not figuring this out. I didn't mean that at all. So it's good to have the reinforcement. And you can do that with yourself too. Like, what am I really upset about this morning? Am I upset about something that I'm doing? Or is it like, what is it about this situation? Get to the bottom of it. That's really, really upsetting me. And probably there are probably other things that I'm like, oh, well, actually, I'm really upset about this over here, but I'm going to take it out on this. And then you just get, again, once you get in that spiral, it goes round and round and round.
And I'm going to throw out one more thing here that is just like so huge for me is obviously so I'm going to put it in 3 different levels for you in terms of like what would make the most amount of sense. So level number 1 is if you really do have a trusted friend and someone that you can talk to about it, that isn't going to sit there and always ask you about it again and again, because that stops being useful. If you've got a trusted friend that you can talk to and just really state like, I just need to like bounce this off of someone. Like it's not a big deal, but like this is going on for me. Can we just talk about it? And I just need to hear your opinion, just so I can get the words out my mouth and I can hear someone else's opinion about it. And you know that they're an intelligent person whose opinion you would trust. Bounce it off a trusted friend. So that would be my level 0 as such. My top level would be someone like a very experienced coach or therapist, where you've actually got someone that you talk to however often it is, once a week or whatever it is, and you can actually text them if necessary with your specific issue, and you can actually deal with it that way. And my middle tier solution, which is the one that I actually like the most nowadays, that's actually kind of moving towards the top tier at this point in time, ChatGPT. However stupid it is, if you just train a proper chat AI to just listen to your problems and just give you logical answers and proper support. And it will take a moment to train it right. And I mean, maybe we could actually maybe that's something that we'll add into the show, a chat that I've pre-configured that other people could use in this way. But just a chat that you could actually sit there and you can talk to it nowadays because chat has voice capabilities. I think even if you call 1-800-CHAT-GPT, you can actually talk to it on the phone.
That's funny.
You can actually just talk. It exists nowadays. But you can even just talk to it. You can just sit there and just let it all out. So listen here, this is what's going on for me, and I can't get this out of my head, and this is what's going on, and this is what's going on, and this is what's going on, and it's bothering me this, and it's bothering me. And you're talking to a computer. You don't need to worry about it. When it's done, you can hit the delete button and you're done with it for good. You can just just let everything out, and then just what it says back. And if you've made it into something that is supportive and solution focused and actually looking to help you through it, you'll be amazed at nowadays the level of AI. You actually get very intelligent answers back. And it's a very powerful thing.
It's all the self-help books that everybody's been reading that I love. I'm addicted to those things. Like, I'm like, oh my God, a new one. It's basically the same message being repeated over and over again, just with a different take on it.
Absolutely.
Typically, when you sit down to read one of those, you're in the mood to read, like you have space, you're reading. Very rarely are you in the middle of like a real heated problem, because then you can't just focus on what you're reading. So it's usually you're calm, you're at night, I'm going to read this book. But ChatGPT is kind of having an interactive version of all the self-help books ever written, because it's all being fed by the internet and everything else. So it's actually in the heat of the moment, because I do have the app. I could pop it open, turn on the voice thing, go for a walk, and just fucking unload into it and just let it come back and tell me whatever with instant feedback for the questions I'm asking. So yeah, that's actually a really, really good idea if you have to break out of it,
And I mean, you could even this is where I've gotten really into ChatGPT, as you know, but probably our listeners don't. But you could even tell it, I want you to be in the style of this therapist, or in the style of this book, or this self-help guru, or whatever it is. And it will give you answers as if you're talking to that person. And it's just got the wealth of the internet's worth of knowledge. So if you say, I want you to be in the style of Tony Robbins, it knows Tony Robbins at this point in time probably better than most of Tony Robbins' coaches do. And it would give you some really, really good answers. Or I need you in the style of
Charles Manson, some cult leader. He was pretty persuasive.
That's going to be a different answer. That's going to be a different. That's for a completely different conversation, I think.
Right.
I was going to say Carl Jung, but I mean Charles Manson is obviously another option.
He's on LSD.
But it's, and the beauty of this is that you don't necessarily need to pay someone. You don't necessarily need to worry about a trusted friendship. It's something that exists nowadays that, I mean, for the first time in human history, that you've got an intelligent, quote unquote, being to talk to and actually get logical answers back from for free. And that is just completely your own ability to use it in whatever way you want. It's something, and it's only going to get better with time, which is just absolutely insane to me. But the whole idea here, the whole thing I'm trying to get at here is the fact of get it out of your head in two different ways. Number one is train yourself ahead of time with specific pattern interrupts by doing things such as meditation, by doing things, coming up with the smart ideas of taking a walk, going for a swim, whatever it is, learning how to hit pillows, whatever it is. Or number two is get it out of your head by actually just writing what it is that you need to talk about, or actually talking to a friend or ChatGPT or a therapist about it and moving on, and then saying okay, fine, mind, I get it. I get the fact you're going crazy. But what we're going to do right now is I'm going to stop tuning into your channel. I listened to your channel. I woke up in the morning and I had my 6 minutes of CNN debrief. It doesn't make sense for me to leave CNN on for the rest of the day if I know for a fact that the news makes me anxious. It just doesn't make sense.
And you have to use the same, as my recommendation to everybody, use the same thing that I have to do because I'm a big procrastinator. Now, once I sit down and get into something, I really enjoy it, and it's over way faster than I thought it was going to be when I started. It could be for something I enjoy doing or something I just don't want to do. I'm like, why did I make such a big deal out of this? But the same tactic is, I forgot who said, James Clear, the Atomic Habit guy.
James
He's
Clear.
like,
Yep.
sit down. It usually takes 15 minutes to actually get into a project. Now we're talking about knowledge work and writing, but the same thing with trying to break your thought patterns by walking, listening to music. Again, while you're sitting there and you're in it and you're like, just tell yourself like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes. And if it doesn't work after 5 minutes, then I just lost 5 minutes. Now, chances are you're going to do it for a couple minutes and realize it's working, but don't make it to like, because a lot of people do that. Like, oh, well, I should go exercise. I should go walk and listen to music. But they're like, I don't have fucking time for this. But say, all right, you know what? 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes of just putting on 2 songs or 1 song, actually. And let me go walk around the block. If it doesn't work, then come right back and stew, but I guarantee it'll work though. Right.
Yep. And it's, and the thing is, like, I mean, like, if that doesn't work, then all that you do is, like I said, like, I mean, worst case scenario, just say this day's a bust and just accept it. It's like, I mean, sometimes, like, I mean, if momentum is pulling you too far in one direction, then stop freaking fighting it and just say this day's going to suck. But don't make it into, I'm fighting it. And now all of a sudden what it is, I feel like I'm just absolutely lost. Just say, do you know what? Momentum took me so far. There's that saying, it's Abraham Hicks says, it's something like, what do you do if you jump out of an airplane and you figure out that your parachute doesn't work? Wait 30 seconds, it will all be over soon. It's like, it's just one of those things in terms of like, if you're too far gone and there's nothing you can do about it, just accept the fact that you're on this ride and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like, I mean, like, so just finish off your day and just say this was a crap day. But the truth is, the more you teach yourself to break your pattern, the more you realize that fewer and fewer of those crap days really happen, because you can pretty easily break a pattern. Really, really pretty easily break a pattern. I'm just going to give one more quick little tool here that is really powerful for me. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. It's something that we actually mentioned in the Shift community that I just absolutely love. So again, like we said, that there's the 3 main ways people process information: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. But then after that, there's obviously also, there's your 5 senses. So it's, in terms of the preference of it, it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, smell, and taste. So if you use all 5 senses on something, then you really are pulling your mind away from something. So if you're just absolutely stuck in something that you just cannot get away from, what you do is you just find yourself a quiet place, whatever it is, go into a room, whatever it is. And the first thing you do is you ask yourself the question, what are 5 things that I can see right now that are absolutely real in my world around me? And 5 distinct things. So you go like, okay, fine, I see the tissue box, I see Lee's face on the screen, I see my mug, whatever it is. You list 5 things you can see. The next thing you ask are, what are 4 things that I can hear? So what are 4 things I can hear? And what happens is you actually have to go quiet and you actually try to notice things in your external environment, maybe even listen to your own breath, listen to whatever it is. 4 things you can hear. What are 3 things I can genuinely feel right now? What are 3 things so I can feel my chair behind my back? I can feel like, if I pay attention, I can feel the sweat on my hands and the air conditioning blowing against it. I can feel the breeze on the back of my head. What are 2 things I can smell right now? What are 2 things I can actually notice the smell of right now? And you actually have to stop and pay attention to it. And then what is the 1 thing I can taste right now? And the thing is, when you do this, when you really have to go down into the 5-4, hear, see and hear isn't that big. The moment you go into 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, you have to so dissociate your brain away from that crazy chatter that's going on. You really, really, really have broken that pattern. And it's just the simplest thing in the world. 5-4-3-2-1. 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can feel, 2 things I can taste, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. And it breaks your pattern because it has to, because your brain has to absolutely pay attention to this real world, not that world going on in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just doing it right now, we just walked through it, and it took maybe 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes total. So it's not even that much out of your day to do. So yeah, that's great advice. Well, I don't know if you had anything in particular you wanted to add to it, but just, breaking the thought patterns and trying not to get worked up about news and everything else. And again, we could talk about this every week. We probably should, but it's a daily thing. And I have all the tools, and I still, like, today was a bad day for me. In the morning, it was a bad morning. So, don't beat yourself up if you're like, I should know all this by now. Well, we should all know better by now. It doesn't matter. Some days you just fall into it, right? So.
Yeah. And so I just want to finish off. I mean, I got to do my tiny little shameless plug here to some degree, right? So it's obviously it's Brittany and I started up the community Shift Collective, shiftcollective.net. And in that community, what we have is it's specifically where I'm taking people over these different techniques over and over again in different ways, where you can actually talk to Brittany or me and ask your questions and DM me directly and ask the questions. And at the same time, you're surrounded by community of, now it's a growing community, 50, 100 members, however many it is right now, where as you have a bad day, you can post into the community and say, guys, I'm having a bad day. And you've got 50 other cheerleaders there sitting there saying like, let's help you through it. You're going to be better, whatever it is. And if you say, you know what, that doesn't work, you send me a direct message or you ask a question sitting there going like, Ori, what can I do? And all these things that we spoke about breaking your pattern, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, etc., have all been shared in that community in a way that's easy for you to digest, along with specific lessons specifically focused in on how to deal with like your mental distortions and your cognitive distortions going on in your brain, etc. So I know it's a shameless plug, but it's definitely something I want to comment because it means so much to me, the fact that this community has grown the way it has, and the fact that people are genuinely connecting there and making big changes. And it's blowing me away every single time I see it. So I apologize people for listening in that way, but like it's something I definitely have to share.
Well, you can just shameless plugs. Okay, it's your show. You can do whatever you want. But along those lines of not just being able to post things, interact with people that are maybe having maybe in a better place that day to help you out. You also learn that everybody's going through the same thing. That's comforting in itself because we get, how we get in our own heads and we're like, this is just a problem. This is my problem. Nobody else is thinking this. Meanwhile, if we could walk down the street and everybody had one of those little Sims things above their heads that listed out what was going on, we would be very comforted, like, holy shit, everybody's having the same, not the same necessarily problems, but we're all doing the same things to ourselves. So it's comforting to know that, like, oh yeah, I just went through that the other day. Now, let me help you out with kind of thing. So it's pretty common. So, but thanks for being here, everybody. We've got some exciting retreat news coming up. We'll make sure we post it as soon as possible, and we're going to crank up the community stuff as well. We've got a lot of things out there floating around right now. We've all been kind of busy doing our own things. I've been traveling a lot. Ori's got some stuff going on. So we've got some things that are coming together, and hopefully we can announce it all at one time, but we're very, very close. I think probably by the end of April, beginning of May, we're going to have a few things out, a couple live webinars and things like that, where you can interact with us and ask questions live. So good to see everybody. Please like and subscribe and all those things you're supposed to do, and to be continued.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Lee.
Hey everyone, it's Lee. Just one more thing before you go. Ever wondered how journaling could help change your life? You can find out by downloading the Emotional Alchemy Journal from the link in the description. It's a powerful tool for deep self-reflection, and it's completely free. And if you're looking to connect with Ori and learn more about how he can help you, visit his website at OriGoldstein.com. A link will also be in the description. Until next time, keep challenging the chaos within, be a little kinder to yourself, and let's continue to evolve together.